So today, guys, we're going to cover a quick webinar on Bluebeam, mastering efficiency, empowering engineers, and unleashing the power of that markups list, as well as a few other really interesting sort of topics. So this is a bit of a unique webinar. We really looked at doing this in more of a workflow way and showing you guys a start to finish process rather than sort of just individual tips and tricks to really give you a look at how these sort of tools fit into a project workflow. So yeah, a couple of really unique little items in here. Hopefully, we'll see how we go as we do it, since it's the first time sort of running this sort of format. So we'll get your feedback at the end of see whether you like it or not. But yeah, sweet. Crack on from here. So as you guys know, for us, HK Technologies previously, then Vin0, etc. A bit confusing, but we have now officially moved to Archons. So a little bit about us and about the Monodeal Group and who we're with now. Obviously, a really strong history. Founded in 1906, they started really in agricultural machinery, construction machinery, construction rental, a lot of that side of the industry. And then as that digital space became more common and big part of all of our lives, and they moved into that digitalization space with Archons, where we land now here at here. So yeah, massive scope across the globe. That's us down there in the bottom right of that picture of Australia, part of a huge picture now. Yeah, interesting sort of times for us. So yeah, Archons itself as a part of Monodeal was established in 2018, looking to become that leading partner of digitalization. And for us over here on the right, that Bluebeam membership company, that we are now sort of that leading Bluebeam partner for them, and specifically us here in Australia, the #1 platinum provider. So that's where we fit, and that's sort of what we pride ourselves on. So yeah, now just a bit about me. So very briefly, I'm from architecture originally. I'm from an architectural firm for a couple of years, building designer with a builder directly, and then now a technical consultant in this space. So a little bit of experience in the going around the block, but I have been using Bluebeam pretty much exclusively since 2020. So very on top of all the new features, and it's all I do day in and day out. So you'd hope I'd have my head around it by now. So yeah, for the agenda today, and just to address on the original plan, we were going to have a guest speaker. Unfortunately, the way the industry moves, stuff came up, couldn't join us. So really, really unfortunate, but we understand from their side. So we will get the chance to do this again in the future with them. But unfortunately, just not today. So yeah, wait out for that. We'll get them in and have that discussion we were planning on down the road sometime. So for today, like I mentioned before, we've got 3 sort of key workflows we're going to show you. So one being that markups list for doing like a document review and a project tracking system. And the second being that advanced tool chest side, creating a template for drafting new sets of drawings. So how can we actually use Bluebeam exclusively? Not even grabbing a floor plan out of Revit and then chucking stuff on simple as markups. We can actually use Bluebeam to draft directly on, create new stuff in that environment alone. And then from there, we can actually compare and overlay. So I've shown you that feature before in previous webinars. If you've been to any of the previous ones, we have shown that feature, but we haven't shown it in this way. So there's other ways to sort of use these tools than what they were typically for. I've shown in the past, comparing document revisions, but we're actually going to chuck a couple of different types together and look at where our drawings are colliding in a 2D sort of environment. Sweet. As we go, there's a Q&A sort of function in here, so chuck any questions in the chat as we go. If you have any, we'll probably get to them at the end, unless it's super relevant and I've sort of made something really confusing and I have to go back and sort of fix it. But typically, yeah, we'll go through them all at the end together and get through it that way. Sweet. So our first one, this markups list review process. So we'll start by creating our tool chest and looking at our tool chest that we're going to use, because that's sort of the backbone of the whole system. And then we'll look at profiles just briefly to show how those can sort of make that easier for us. We'll then filter our data out, customize those statuses, which we'll see how they work, and then apply those to markups and create an export to get that data out at the very end of the road. So yeah, start to finish, this sort of shows you a real quick look at how you can project manage using this tool alone. Let's kick over to Bluebeam. So firstly, like I mentioned, look at our tool chest, because these tools are how we speak to the sort of program, how we add our context in. So typically on the side, for any beginners that are there, our tools on the right hand side, you can grab any of these tools from the top as well, markups, anything here, chuck it on the drawing, MS Paint style, pretty easy. Where Bluebeam comes in really handy though is you can edit these, you can fill them with colors, you can add customization options, dash lines, hatch patterns to the whole thing. They can get really, really unique. Doing that every single time you want to represent a certain thing is tedious. So we have our tool chest. They allow us to save certain properties. So this tool chest, for example, here in the tool chest panel, the architectural review, we can click on one of these, and that's the same as this tool up here, except it's preset to have a certain color attached to it. We go back to our standard review profile. So our profiles at the top under the review panel. When we change profiles, we can change between these presets. So when I go, for example, between these two that I've established for myself, go to the engineering one, and I have a bunch of different tools loaded in that library. So how we get that into profiles first, we can either just, select the basic standard profile. This is one that comes with review. It's got these different tool chests. To move on to make a new one, click on that profiles panel, manage profile at the bottom, and then add just a new one in there. You can call that electrical, for example. And so that's going to be our electrical engineering. We can then go into our tool chests, untick the ones we don't want to see. So I don't need, these or these. I just want a few basic ones around. And then you can add your own by sort of clicking at the top, manage tool chests, add, and say electrical symbols. Oh my goodness. There we go. I can spell if I try my hardest. When you do create a new tool chest that wants to save it somewhere, I won't stress about where I'm going to put it because I won't need it, but stuck it in there, turn it, bang, cool. So now we have a blank tool chest, saved to wherever we saved it to. The benefit of these tool chests as well, you can share them around, you can share profiles as well. So when you have done all this stuff and established it within the company, you can share them to other people so they're not having to go through and do all the same work you're doing. How do we do that? Under tool chests, manage, select the one you want to share, click export, and then that pulls it out of the program. You can save it anywhere on your computer, send that file off. When they get it, they do the same thing. They go tool chests, manage, and then import, find whatever, one that you have shared with them, open that up, and then cool, you've loaded in your new tool chest that way. It's very quick and easy. I can chuck any of these symbols in anywhere I want. I'll go back to my other profile being just that standard review profile, and I'll use these as a good example to start with. If we go down to, where's my panel? We run into a natural issue. One of my toolbars is missing. Since I ran through it, I'll move to show you what's going on. Under tools and toolbars here, the status bar, you can turn that back on. That's what I was looking for. I didn't have it up. There we go. Sorry for that. Sweet. Turn a few of these back on. I was having graphical glitches, but now it's back and I can see my thing I want to see. There we go. Now from here, go to the next couple of pages. Here's a page I created earlier for you all. Nice and messy, right? It all looks really just like gibberish. That's just a bunch of these different tools placed on. The reason I sort of do that is so we can show you this markups list. And this is the next step of the process. Once you have gone through and placed your comments, your arrows, your engineering review, you've highlighted something of interest, you've clouded something that needs to be looked at. Everyone's gone through, multiple people in one PDF have done that. It becomes really messy because everyone's working on the same page. How we can filter that out. So this is where the markups list comes in. You can bring that up by clicking on that blue bar at the bottom. That'll bring it right up. We can stretch it out. We can also push it to the side to have us more panel space on the side if we want. But yeah, so there it is. We can grab these and actually use this to filter this data. So first of all is by subject. Everything in this tool chest has the same subject. That means I can filter it out. See on the side, all these markups of architect. Whenever I click on one, it shows me where it is in the actual plan. This markups list is basically just a big library of everything that we have actually drawn already in this program or onto this PDF. So I can select any of these. I can select this architecture one. It'll show me, it'll drag me to where it's been drawn. Now for filtering and where this comes in handy is under this section here. So we can select filter list and select on the side here above the subject, and we'll have this drop down box option. So we can select them one at a time. So if I select architect, everything else becomes grayed out. And now I'm only looking at one thing that I want to see. I can filter out by engineer as well. I can filter out by the same contractor, and even two at once. So engineer and contractor, and now everything else is hidden. I'm just looking at those two. So that allows everyone to actually work on the one PDF really easily without it getting messy. Otherwise, the alternative is you have 4 different sheets for every different industry doing their own comments, etc. And it gets really hard to know what the most up-to-date version is. Now everyone can work on the same page, and we all know quite literally the same page. But yeah, the next part of this then, so that's the easy bit, placing your comments, etc. How we get more sort of dynamic info use out of this is with our statuses. So this is where project tracking and management comes in. Say on this page, I'm sort of going through doing my review of each sort of markup as they appear. Let's get rid of those. I want to go down here to this page and say this markup. I have to actually, it's my job now to approve these changes that have been drawn in the drawing. So way I do that is with my statuses. So we'll start by creating them by clicking on the status bar here in the markups list and the filter option. We'll click manage statuses. Then we have a pretty standard one. This comes with Bluebeam already, accepted, rejected, canceled. We can create our own sort of list. So we'll just click add here. The model is going to be engineering review. So for this, we'll have a few different stages. So these states on the side are sort of the stages they can sit at. I'm going to add a state and call this accepted, because it's been accepted for it to progress. The next one will be rejected. As in that markup, we don't want that to continue through the project. We don't want those changes to be implemented. And then the name will be complete, where that change has been implemented into the actual drawings and they're done. Just as an example, you can see anything can be done with these, so it's pretty simple. But yeah, from there, how do we use it? So now that I'm looking at this drawing, I'm going to go through and actually make those changes. So I can select this one, I can right click on that and say, yep, I've looked at this and I want it to be accepted. I've accepted it. So I can set that status with engineering review as to accepted now. And that appears here in the markups list with that information. Same thing, find another markup. Yep, that one's good to go. Status, engineering accepted. As I go through, it's kind of hard to differentiate what I've accepted and what I haven't. So that's where the filter list actually helps in this case as well. I can filter by only accepted or only blank. And so when I filter by blank, you can see the ones I've accepted go gray. So now as I tick things off and go, yep, this one's done, it goes gray, knowing that I'm finished with that. So it's a really easy way to see my work as I go through this file. And then let's add a few more, go rejected. If you go through page by page, that seems like it might take quite a while, right? Doing it that way, but if you're certain that an entire page is good to go, you can set the status for all of them at once to be accepted. You can set all these, maybe this bottom right half is rejected. And just for the sake of it, we'll say this bottom part's been done. Select all these markups at once. So that's just by holding shift and then clicking and dragging to select multiple. So right click, set status, and then those are complete. So now I can see on this page, everything's been taken care of. I can unfilter that now just to bring it back to how it was and go through and do the opposite. So I can look at what's been accepted and everything else goes gray. I go, yep, these ones are accepted now, they're going to progress. I look at complete and I say, yep, that's how much of it's been done. And then I look at rejected and go, okay, these ones need to be sort of stripped from the record or whatever, right? So yeah, that's how that system works. Pretty handy for that use case. The next step from this is actually getting that data out a little bit further. So any stage that we are at in our project, we can use this tool to extract some information. So in the markups list, I want to use the summary tool. and I want to go to a CSV summary. There's also a PDF. I'll show that just very quickly so you have an idea what it is. I won't fiddle with the settings just to click OK. This isn't what I want to show you. It's just so you are aware of what it is. But this will create an export and a summary PDF of everything we've made and what information goes with it. So just for the example, you can see at the top here, this is the markup summary. We've got, this was placed by the contractor, it's on this sheet, it has this status, etc. So it's just a big list of everything. If you're doing takeoffs, and I won't touch on it, but you can see it has a cost associated. That's the sort of thing that is possible with Bluebeam. We're not covering that today, but just so you're aware that's there. But yeah, that's how that PDF system works. What we want to do is create an Excel summary because we want to actually take all that data and chuck it in like a table or chuck it in a pie chart or something so we can, show the boss how flash we are. So CSV summary, and this is where we look at the settings. So what we want to do is include the markups. The main settings we're looking at are the columns and filter. So this is actually what information we're getting in the export. Otherwise, we'll just get everything and it'll be a bit messy. So in columns, you want to decide what's important to us. We're not looking at materials and costs, so I'll turn those off. Untick those. Space isn't what I'm using. Layer, I think layers are sort of active. The color is handy to leave on. Status is absolutely. The date as well. These are all good things. The authors as well. So those are the main ones you want. And the subject is key. So those are good. That's the information we need to pull out of it. Filter and sort. This is how we actually filter the data itself. The columns is just filtering what we see. And the filter is filtering what information is being exported. That'll make more sense in a sec, actually. It's a bit hard to explain now, but basically, when you export these are turning into your columns in Excel. So you have a line, it'll tell you all these information pieces, and then the filter is saying, no, this isn't going into a file at all. What I want to do is filter sort of negatively. So I'm going to untick all and just select the ones that are relevant. So just these types: architecture, engineering, contractor, and I think that is it. Yep, sweet. So just those three, because everything else isn't relevant to the information we're filtering out. Now, from there, that should, be everything. We can filter multiple stages. We can sort by the status, which is probably pretty good, and we can then sort by subject. So that way, everything will flow evenly. It'll sort by which ones are completed, and then by discipline as well. So we'll have those two. But yeah, from there, pretty simple. That's all we need to do. We'll just click OK and get the product out now. This will create our Excel file. Elevator music. There she is. Beautiful. So now we have a lot of raw data that we can apply that function to. So we've got the subject on the side and the statuses that are applied to them. Now, I'm not here to demo Excel, so I won't go too into it, but basically, you'd want to grab all of this column and then sort of this column. I'm terrible at Excel. I'm going to embarrass myself further if I continue. But basically, yeah, when you are here, you can filter by those statuses and get a count, pie chart. 50% of them are completed, 10% of them are rejected, etc. I'm too incompetent to show that side of it. I'm a Bluebeam guy, not an Excel guy. So yeah, that was a quick down and dirty for that first step. That sort of shows you guys how that system can be used. Mainly, like we said, that statuses system, and then getting that export out if you want to, bring a report back to the boss. The filter system's really good. You can use that in multiple ways. Like I showed you, you can turn it off so that you're only seeing things that haven't been edited yet, and then those are the ones you need to work on, etc. So pretty cool. Sweet. Next one. So this is a pretty cool one as well. This is sort of what we're looking at with creating exclusively in Bluebeam. So we're saying, we want to make all the tools that we need to perform a certain task, and a template as well that we can actually draw onto to make our lives a lot easier rather than, copy pasting, chopping stuff around. So for this element, we're going to use a few of our existing tools. I'll sort of show you how they're made just for that background knowledge, but the main emphasis is going to be on using them in the context. Sweet. So let's chuck back Bluebeam on. Check. There we go. So from here, I'll open a new file and just use that as my baseboard. You can do this multiple ways. Not new, sorry. Open this way. I know where I saved it. I'll just find it in here somewhere. Template. This is the only one. So this is just a blank template I prepared earlier. You can do this multiple ways. If you haven't got like a blank, title block you want to use, another alternative method is to go to your previous drawing, go to sort of page 1 here, and this is the title block I want, but there's info all over it. No worries. At the top left, we have edit, PDF content, and erase. So I can use that erase tool to just chop out all this nonsense that I don't care about anymore. And then the markups stay, so I can just delete the markups. Yeah. So same thing, right? I've just chopped everything out, and now I've got my blank title block that I can use. Easy. Now I'm just going to use this previous one. So in here, we've created our blank page. We want to draw onto this, but we also want to draw onto this like frequently. We want to be able to bring this up when at any time we need it. So we want to turn it into what's called like a Bluebeam template that's baked into the program. We can sort of call on it when we need it. Before we do that, though, there's a few things we can do to make this more useful. If you want to make it a multi-page PDF, so if I go to my thumbnails panel, this is where I look at my PDF as a whole. Maybe I want to copy this and paste it. So I've got a couple of pages already ready to go. So you can bring a template in and have multiple sort of files ready. Within this as well, so what we want to do to this to make it more useful, every time I load this in, this information is going to change, right? The location, the industrial park, etc. That's not going to be the same every project. That needs to change. One thing we can do, the easiest workaround is the similar tool before. So edit and PDF content, and then we can edit text. So we can go through and just rewrite history here a bit. Say this is 21, I won't say it, 21 Jump Street. That's the street we're on. That's where we're looking. You can just edit that file really quickly. That's one way. The easier way is, or not easier, but more work now for less work later, is to actually replace this text on the side with something more useful. So to do that, I'll just erase that content. And I'll only do it once because it's the same process if we were to do the whole PDF, but this is what we're going to do. We want to create a spot where we can fill that information in. I'll just create a text box and then type in address, project address. Just need to format that text box to how I want it. So I can change this to be centered and aligned in the middle. The font size should be a bit larger, 18. Text, I want it to be black. And then we've got that ready to go. And I can copy that text box down below it and across. Sorry, there we go. And then that's address line 2. Why does that happen? Thank you. So now with that, it looks pretty much like it's meant to be there, right? Except anytime I want to use this template now in the future after I've saved it, I can just double click on that box and then type in whatever I need. So it makes it easy to fix. The second part of this is the fancier part. If you do want to get really in depth, and I won't go too hard on this, but we can make these fields dynamic. So you may want to just do what we did before. Let's just delete that page. And I'll duplicate this page real quick. So I've got 2 pages with the same thing on it. They've both got this system. Whenever I change the address on this first template to 21, I won't do it again, or street, it doesn't change the second page. So for our title blocks, we would want all that information to be the same. So it is possible. It just requires, and it's a complete feature, but the use of form fields. So this form field's on the side, we click on forms, and then we click at the top for a text box. So I'll click on that text box and draw one in where I need it. Over here. And that will create the form field on the side. So this is where it's really key for it to work. I want to rename this to project address. And then when I go to the other page, I need to make the exact same field again. So when I go to the page 2 by clicking that arrow, now I'm in this page, create another form field that's blank in the same location. And then double click on that and call it the same thing. So project address. Now the benefit of that, once that's all been done and I leave sort of that form field's environment, I can click on this and type address test. And moment of truth, yeah, there it is. See, I've changed pages and it's actually filtered in the same way both times. So that way you can see if I have this form field, I can type in whatever I want. And when I go to the other page, so my thumbnail's kind of on page 1, go to page 2, it's updated automatically. So you can establish a full, document where everything automatically updates that way, which is really handy. But yeah, enough on templates. From the next stage, we've created it, we're happy with it. We've done these form fields for everything we want to do on the side. The next step is to just go in and make that template in Bluebeam. So that is somewhere in here, to file, and then new PDF from template at the bottom. We have the save as template option. So we'll save this file as a template. Template title block. And now that's a template, we can use that. So when I go to file and click new PDF, and the pop-up comes up here, I can then select from these templates any that I've previously created. So for example, I have a template like, one of these, a field report template. I can open a new PDF and it opens this document anytime I need it. So I can create these really quickly. But yeah, the same will work for the previous type. The next step is actually filling this in with some information. So we've made our template now. We've brought a new file in. We want to draw on it. So that's good. We're going to use our tool chest for that. I'm going to go to my other profile, engineering. And this is where I have a bunch of tool chests preloaded. So this is just to show you what's possible because tool chests are really dynamic. I can bring in an entire sort of diagram whenever I need it of a full-on sort of wall set system, bring these side by side, and I'm basically like instantly drafting right now because I've pre-saved what I need. Certain details that I know I use all the time, I just chuck them in, load them up, use them over and over again. Pretty handy. So these tool chests that's the level of detail they can go to, like massive full-on sort of sets. The second side, for example, if you're doing an engineering workflow, we've got our plumbing line working our plumbing symbols. So we can do a bit of a diagram, go to the next page, and we want to start doing a rough diagram. So let's say, and here we go, I'm not a plumber, I'm not a plumbing engineer. This is going to be a bit rough from my side in terms of getting this accurate. But to use these effectively, the second thing we can do in our tool chest, click that cogwheel, and click detail. And that'll give us a lot more information on what we're looking at. So we can see all the way down, I've got different symbols and different things. So let's say I want to chuck a butt weld in. I want to go to my second page. And I might increase the scale so we're not looking at very tiny stuff. This was pretty weird, but it'd be fine. Okay, it's not gonna work. Oh, good. So yeah, we'll zoom in, chuck a few of these symbols on. An outside stem, a meter, wall hydrant. Because I'm sure all these things are very typically drawn together. Of course not. Just to show you how it works, right? I'm not really able to give you the industry side of it, but how Bluebeam works, this is how we're going to use it. You want to click on one of these then, so pick maybe a certain type of pipeline. and you can draw between them. So yeah, maybe not, a typical hydraulic drawing, but that's how we can use these tools. So I've got different types of tools. I've got symbols and I've got my line work. That lets me really quickly draft sort of stuff like that. To use something from my own industry, this will make a bit more sense to do it. Something I actually understand, but from an architectural perspective as well, if I swapped my other profile, I've got all these tools I need ready. So I'll get rid of that cheapy diagram. It makes no sense. Look at my detailed view for this one and just sort of draw up some runes. So I can chuck in some carpet, huge, gigantic carpet rune. Let's go 4.3. File, and then vinyl. So I've made basically a box, added a hatch pattern to it. So if we just edit the same thing, this is just this square tool with a few extra steps. See how effective it is? Looks really handy, looks pretty good. That's just this, except I've made the line really thick. I've made the line black, added like a hatch pattern, and I've reduced that hatch pattern down and made that black as well. Very quick and easy, but I've got these pre-saved to use. And then same for my tools. I can chuck doors in. Well, 1 to 10 is not going to work for me. Let's redo that scale. Now I can chuck a very tiny door in. 1 to 1,000 is not what I wanted. 1 to 100. Apologies. There we go. But yeah. Just trying to show you very quickly, you can just grab a symbol and place it in your drawing where you need it, right? A bathtub, a shower. Scale's all whack, but then we can fill these in the color white so that it stands out from the background. Stick a sink on, rotate that sink, fill it in with white. So you can see how I'm able to use these pre-tools that I've made to actually just straight up draft on Bluebeam alone. Really handy, really good way to get some quick drawings in. I can chuck a window on, can't see it, fill it in with white. Now it stands out. Chuck the actual one next to it, have a little arrow pointing to it. This is what I want here, etc. I'm quickly able to draw a lot faster a representative sort of concept. We shrink this down in very these sorts of ways, right? Anyway, the last sort of thing we might just quickly show for the engineering side would be like a electrical sort of layout. If we go to context, we can do this on existing drawings as well with no issue. So find a blank page like this one. If you're an electrical engineer, you're an electrician, you want to draw your layout, I'm going to chuck my lights, my switches and stuff all over this drawing. I've got a tool chest for that. Bang, let's go to the other profile. Oh, whoopsie, come on. Electrical. And hopefully, I think that's given you the idea at least. That's the point of that is just to show that you can, here it is, that you can grab symbols and very quickly place them on your drawings for representative changes onto a template. So from this workflow, I'm actually basically using this as Revit in a way. Like I'm start to finish creating a project and putting what I need on it. So this isn't just symbols. I've also got like a line type that will connect these lights. I can connect these lights to the switch on the wall here. Quick layout. How do you make these tools? So the idea more of this session is to show you the very, very vast possibilities, but the quick rough down and dirty of how these are made. It's multiple sort of approaches. The first one is screenshotting. So if I want to use this door ever again, I can click edit up the top and snapshot it. copy paste, and then that is like a tool I can use. I can add that to my tool chest somewhere with my tools at the top. Select that. Now it's available. Anytime I want to use that door again, I can use it. So that's the easiest way, is having a sample that you can draw stuff from. The second way is to draw it, because drawing it adds additional functionality. For example, I can change the line color because it's drawn, it's not a flat image. With the screenshot, for example, I can't do that. I can't change the line colors or any of the types. It's a flat image. To make these, it's just a matter of drawing with your simple tools on the side. Start with a circle, add another line, add another line. And then shift click, select them all at once, right click on it, and then click group, and that creates a group. This is now one image or one item that I can add to a tool chest and use whenever I need. So there, the fire egress, bang. So for something like this, this is a straight line. I want to draw from here to here to here and then out. That's my evacuation plan. Again, all that is a polyline. So that's on the side. This is the basic tool. I draw a polyline in the same place. Oops. Up. Yeah. Out this way. All I've done is increase that line thickness here. Change the line type to something more fitting. I might not have the exact one available, but to show you just the mechanics, create that certain line type. Change that start to maybe a dot and the end to an arrow. Reduce that a little bit and then change the color to blue. And you sort of get the idea. We're getting there, right? That's just a very quick way to do it, but it's just a matter of playing with your tools until you get exactly what you want and then saving that for use later on. Cool. It's enough time spent on that one. So from there, we created that template at the beginning. We made it dynamic by adding those fields. You can take it a step further by using form fields that'll update every page all at once. Alternatively, we then imported that Bluebeam template into Bluebeam. We can draw on it. We can create a new PDF from that template very quickly. And then using our profiles, you sort of saw we could jump around between a lot of our different content that we've already remade. So yeah, that's how we use Bluebeam for that really quick and easy start to finish drafting process. That's how you can actually use Bluebeam on its own for that. Now the next one's a really cool one. Again, I've shown this similarly before, but this is how we're going to use it in a project context. We have a drawing where we need to compare, drawings we've received from someone else to confirm that things are in the same place. And we also want to confirm that certain things like HVAC and lighting are not colliding. Let's jump back in and go to our other drawing. So this is an example data set of a large project. It's got 50-ish pages. I've bookmarked them on the sides so I know what I'm looking for, but these 3 pages are what we want to compare. We've got an RCP for our electrical and our ceiling access and exit signs, etc. All of that's drawn on here. We've got the below image, which is more of our HVAC ducting and our vents and where they're going to be. And you can see on this line as well, for this drawing, for whatever reason, has some of the lighting in place. So we're twofold. We're going to be able to make sure that, this drawing that came from consultant 1 has the same locations for their lighting as the people that originally gave that file to them. So we've got a lot of people working on this, want to make sure things are lining up, and we want to make sure they're not colliding. The last one is then a more detailed HVAC drawing at the bottom, maybe an existing drawing, maybe one from the engineer later on, and we're just confirming that things aren't going wrong. So because these are all in the same PDF, for us to compare and overlay them, they have to be separate pages. To do that, we're going to grab these pages and extract them. So I know it's page 11, page 12, and page 41. So to extract them out of this document, I'm going to go to my thumbnails panel. Go 11, 12, and 41. I've got to remember that, 11, 12, 41. So grab the page we want. You can start this process anywhere. Just right click in your thumbnails panel. We're going to click extract pages. And then we can do a custom range. So it's just by typing into this field, we can go 11, 12, 41, and that's going to extract those 3 pages. We can choose these things like delete our pages after extracting. We don't want to do that. We do want to extract them as separate files, because if we extract them as one file, we're just back where we started. There's no point. We're separating them into 3 different PDFs that we can then chuck on top of each other. Cool, and we want to open them after we've extracted them so that they all just pop up here into our program, easy to use. Just run that. I'll save them just to my download so I can get rid of them later. It's fine. Bang, now these 3 have popped up at the top of my screen. See in the thumbnail panel, they're by themselves. Each of these is just one document. Cool, let's just close everything else. Whenever we're doing overlay, I recommend just chucking, getting rid of any other open files because they just make it messy. It's a bit more hard. So we're going to go to View, Corruption, Document, and Overlay Pages. So we want to add another one. We've got 2 in there at the moment. We can add more than 2. We can compare 3 at once. Add that last one, add open files, added it on. So we've got 11, 12, 41 here. Now, if I click OK right now, it'll probably get really messy because these documents do not look the same. I'll show you what I mean. Click OK, they're not lined up. Bluebeam will just chuck the documents all on top of each other. And yeah, what a mess, right? Because these are all not aligned. You can see the wall from the green drawing is offset from that red one. And the blue one's even all the way back here. None of the drawings are lining up. Pesky architect in Revit moved that, viewport to the right slightly, and now we have a mess on our hands. So that's okay. We can just easily fix this on our own. Same place in document and overlay. Add open pages, and we've got all 4. The align points tool on the right is what we want to use. And we're going to select 3 points for each that we know are the same on each document. If there was grid lines on every page, that'd be probably a good one. But since we don't have all those grid lines, we want to just pick something we know is going to be the same. So maybe the corner of this wall, from memory with this project, this was an existing wall. So that was the same for every sort of consultant. We're going to use that to sync off, and we'll see if it works at the end. For the bottom here, there's some options. Snap to markup, snap to content. Snap to content's one we want on, because you can see when I sort of hover over it very faintly, there's a little box that appears. That means that it's going to 100% of the time be precisely snapping to the PDF below. So we're going to select 3 points, just the edge there, the edge sort of up here. We'll use the column, and then at the bottom right, this column. I'm using, you can tell, points that are quite far away from each other because that will make it sync up more accurately. If you do 3 points like, this, and this, it might work, but it won't be as precise. So we want to select points that are far away from each other as possible, and ones that are going to be the same on every document, no matter what. That little gray at the top here, we can see that gray 1. That's where we first placed our 1 point. So when we place our 1 here, don't tell me, there it is. The edge of that wall there. Unfortunately, that our text is sort of covering that up, doesn't make it easy. But that 1 will join with that 1, in the sense that this drawing will come up to the top left to meet it. And the same here, it'll shift up leftwards. Last one is that, and then done. So that will be aligned now. We click OK, that'll line them up. And much, much better. Now we have the drawings actually on top of each other perfectly, as we can see. So when you zoom real close in, there might be a margin of error. There is a slight bit of error between some of these. It's giving us a pretty good idea still that they are in the right place. So certain things, each color represents each original PDF we had. We can see that clearly in the layers list. So each of our layers here, if I stretch this panel out and move this across so we can see the names. This is page 11, page 12, and page 41. to analyze this data accurately, it's a little bit much on the eyes all at once. So we can actually just reduce it to, one at a time even. So now we're just looking at one of our documents, and you can sort of see how this works. It's basically just chucked all the documents on top of each other. It's made some of them red, some of them different colors. Now it's all on top of each other. So when I turn one other drawing on, I've got red and green. So whatever's in red was on page 11 to begin with. Whatever's in green was on page 12 to begin with. Is that right? Yeah, red page 11, green is page 12. So that allows us to look through anything that's in black is actually in the same spot. So we can see that these lights here pretty much exactly in the same spot with a slight bit of error because of our alignment process. So most of these are bang on in the right place. What we are looking for, potentially some collisions. So on the side where these ducts are appearing, we want to make sure there's no overlaps. This might be an issue, for example. This is a duct that's coming out directly on top of another light. So we can go through our process and highlight that sort of mistake if need be. So highlight these, highlight this, and we can go through and get the experts on that. Say, hey, is this going to be an issue? Is that going to sort of collide with that later on? But yeah, super easy. And this is just a good way to do this process in the 2D environment. The other side of it is, even though these were the same size, if you had a smaller drawing or a smaller scaled drawing, the alignment process will actually make the drawing bigger. So it can pretty much work for anything as long as the floor plan is the same. But yeah, if we turn these on, we can have all three going at once. We can turn just these two on and then sort of compare one of them with the other. We want to compare the first one with the third one. That's sort of comparing our RCP only. And then, we can go through, highlight where there might be issues, point out discrepancies, etc. So yeah, very, very sort of unique way to use it, but sky's the limit with this sort of software because it is very dynamic. Collisions is one thing. So this might be an issue potentially, probably not because the ceiling light will be below the ceiling and the HVAC will be above it, but you get the picture. So yeah, hopefully that was interesting. It's definitely not something I've seen commonly used, so I really wanted to sort of show that off because it's quite a unique use case. Outside of that, that's our 50 minutes. So thank you very much for joining me. A bit of a unique session. Let me know what you thought of that process. It's a bit different to how I typically do it, right? Showing isolated sort of tips and tricks. I really wanted to show the process as they fit in their environments or in their workflows. So potentially that was a bit more confusing. Maybe it was harder to understand. Let me know what you thought. But yeah, that's three sort of different processes. We started with that first one. If you remember that markups list to show us how to do a document review start to finish. We also looked at those tool chests, how we can use Bluebeam to draft and draw on its own. And then finally, comparing an overlay, we can actually use that for something more unique, clash detection, confirming that things are in the same spot and making sure the project's on the right track. So yeah, those are our top three. Any questions, hit them up again. Any feedback, welcomed. And this webinar will be available on this YouTube channel as well. So Cloud82K at the moment, that's where we're chucking all of our Bluebeam related content. There's plenty of previous webinars in there. Watch them on 2x speed, get a bit of learning in gear. But other than that, that's all I've got. So thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys around. I'll stick around for questions.